Welcome everyone to the Shade and Shit Talking Podcast. I'm your host TK, and as always, I thank you for tuning in. Now, this episode is dedicated to someone who is, in my opinion, a very important person that we have lost probably in the last 3 or 4 years. This episode is dedicated and is used to honor the life and the death of Miss Olivia Hooker. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with that name, let me familiarize you with her. Mrs. Hooker, she was one of the last survivors of the 1921 Tulsa, well, what they like to call race riot. But it was not a race riot. It was an execution. It was a group of white terrorists terrorizing and destroying a black community. Well, she died last week at the age of 103 years old. Now, as this quote unquote race riot broke out, and it was honestly, it was one of the worst incidents to happen to black people outside of slavery, of course. But it broke out in Tulsa, Black Wall Street, and Mrs. Hooker was 6 years old at the time, and she hid under a table as a torch-carrying mob destroyed her family's home. Now, like I said earlier, she was last survivor, one of the last survivors, and she was also among the first black women in the U.S. Coast Guard. Now, when she was interviewed by National Public Radio earlier this year, she recalled hearing the mob use an axe to destroy her sister's piano. And she said, and I quote, "The most shocking was seeing people you never done anything to irritate would just took it upon themselves to destroy your property because they didn't want you to have those things." Now, listening to that quote, there is so much truth in what she said. And they say that this quote unquote race riot was brought about because of, pretty much as I've said in previous episodes when I discussed Black Wall Street, when I discussed the new Trail of Tears. Well, this riot was brought about because of the crocodile tears of a white woman who said that an elevator operator accosted her and, tried to do things sexually to her, which was a lie. I mean, we all know this. But the truth of it all was, it was about jealousy. It was about greed. It was about hatred. It was about the fact that these people who were given the worst parts of the state to live in, given the worst of everything, took that and made an immaculate oasis for themselves. They made a community that thrived, that took care of its own, that made money, that had the dollar stay in that community, pass through hands 14, 15 times at least before it was moved out. They had movie theaters, they had airports, they had schools, they had churches, they had jewelry stores. They had everything that they needed within this community, and they did it on their own, and they were jealous, and they destroyed it because, that's them. So, talking about Tulsa, Black Wall Street, And she went on to say, many different things about what she saw, what she heard, what she remembered, the shock and horror of it all. But the number of deaths from that quote unquote riot, and I would never believe it was a riot. Again, it was an execution and so on and so forth. It was flat out terrorism. But the death toll was never confirmed, but there were estimates that varied from 36 to 300 or more. I tend to lean towards the bigger number because, that's what they do. But, from the things that I've read in studying Tulsa and Black Wall Street and the things that they accomplished, I couldn't help but to to think about my own home state, Mississippi. And I thought about it even more considering what just happened with the whole Cindy Hyde Smith, Mike Espy runoff, and the sheer and utter disappointment and anger that I felt from this lady who said if she would attend a public hanging and sit on the front row if she was invited. A lady who pretty much was raised and brought up and taught segregation. She went to a segregated school and in turn put her daughter in a segregated school. And these schools were created, charter schools, to skirt the law as far as integration goes. So, she is what she is. She was taught what she was taught, and she lived it, and she continues to live it. And that's pretty much how she won the election, by spewing these words and these dog whistle phrases to galvanize the white races of Mississippi, which they just refuse to change the narrative of themselves, which, in the way they're viewed by the rest of the country. But, I thought about like all of the things that they accomplished in Tulsa, all of the things that they were able to put together and able to thrive in, that way of life juxtaposed to what I grew up in and what I see today is just, is sad, just devastatingly sad. And, the chance to change, they had a chance to change and they didn't take that chance. And, seeing people on Facebook and different social media and talking to different people, they were quick to point the finger at the black voters, black voter turnout. And I honestly believe that is a very, very lazy ass argument. First of all, how can you expect the ones who are being oppressed to also be the ones to fix the problem? Like, I don't understand that. That shit is like beyond me. But, the way I look at it is, instead of being mad at, black folks and the ones who said that their votes didn't count and didn't vote, you should be mad at the racists who voted the racists in. That's who the vitriol, that's who the anger should be directed towards. But, looking at my home state again, compared to what I saw in Tulsa and what what they accomplished, it made me go back and look at my state and I found just, some very disheartening and crazy statistics. Now, this state has been a red state probably as long as I've been alive. This state has been, Republican led for as long as I've been alive. And yet the narrative that we have is it's the black people's fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's the liberals' fault. Everybody but the people who has ran this state, the Republicans. Now, for the last 30 years, Mississippi has had Republicans as senators. For the last 14 years, Mississippi has had Republicans as governors. And during this time, Mississippi has had the highest poverty rate, the highest infant mortality rate, the third highest unemployment rate, the third highest incarceration rate, the fifth highest uninsured rate. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Like, this state is number one in all the shit that it shouldn't be, and dead last in all the shit that it should be thriving in. But yet, the state in a whole voted against its own best interest in favor of supremacy, in favor of privilege, in favor of racism. And there's just no way anybody can convince me otherwise of that shit. There's no way. Like, living outside of Mississippi and traveling to different states and different places and working and thriving and doing well, not only me, but other people that I know, that I grew up with, that moved on and got better, the lack of opportunity to do that here is just crazy. It's just insane. But yet they don't change. I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same here in Mississippi, and that's just fucking insane. Like, I just don't understand it. And just this whole runoff election was just an indictment of the state as a whole. I mean, she pretty much just rode the coattails of Orange Fulius and used the same rhetoric and the same tactics that he did to win the highest seat in the land. And they ate that shit up. Yet they blame, the black folks for the problems, which honestly, it has more to do with classism and socioeconomic backgrounds than it does race, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, this state racist as fuck. I've lived it, I've seen it, I've read it, I've felt it, I've dealt with it on a personal level. But it's all about those who have and then the have-nots. And that's, as long as you have that, this state will always be in the bottom. And it goes to the local level as well. Like, there was a judgeship that was up for grabs, and a local guy who was born and raised in this area, who has put in the work for this community, who has reached out across party lines and affiliations and done what's best for the community, got beat out by a slick talking outsider. Now, the guy who happened to put all this work in was a black man. His opponent was not. And he lost by less than 20 votes, I believe. And, that that type of shit just blows my mind. Like, you would rather have an outsider who doesn't truly know your community, rather than vote this man in who's been in the trenches since day one. It's just sad. But again, that's what we deal with down here in Mississippi. The more things change, the more things stay the same. But at some goddamn point, you have to get tired of the same old status quo. And I will say that what happened with Cindy Highsmith and her shenanigans and bullshit has seemed to galvanize a lot of young black people, a lot of people who didn't vote, who should have voted earlier, who didn't vote. And I'm hoping that it builds some type of momentum moving forward for 2020, so we can get rid of her, get rid of Orange Foolies, get rid of all their asses. Because in order for this nation to progress, this state to progress, you have to change what you've been doing for the last 30, 40 fucking years. You got to. I mean, there's nowhere around it. And it starts with people who actually care about their constituents, not, somebody who can be bought and sold like a Ted Cruz, like 95% of these politicians, to be honest. You have to start grassroots vetting these people and grooming people to lead, instead of recycling the same old shit over and over again. We looking at you, Hillary. Go away. Go away and stay away. Now, basically, like I said, we need to just throw the whole system away. The whole political party system, the whole, rigmarole, same old same, in order for this state, in order for this nation to truly be for the people and by the people. Because right now, it's for the rich and by the rich, and that's it. That is it. Now, enough about that. It make my head hurt just constantly thinking about it. Another thing I wanted to talk about really quick, and it just recently happened, and it's one thing that I've been actually looking forward to, and that is progression in the case, the murder case of Mr. Botham Jean. Now, for those who haven't heard about this case or may have forgotten or whatever, Mr. Jean was basically murdered in his own apartment over in Dallas. I mean, he was at his apartment, sitting on the couch, watching the basketball game, minding his business, when he was murdered by a police officer. So on Friday, the officer, a one Miss Amber Geiger, she was indicted on murder charge. And honestly, that to me is huge. Very, very, very huge. And this indictment, it comes more than 2 whole months after she was arrested in his shooting death. But the thing is, she was arrested back in September for the shooting. She was charged with manslaughter by the Texas Rangers, who at the time were the lead investigative agency. Well, the district attorney, Dallas County District Attorney, Faith Johnson, decided to raised the stakes and charged her with the more serious offense of murder. And when asked why, she replied, and I quote, "We presented the evidence and we explained the law." She went on to say that murder constitutes someone intentionally and knowingly committing a crime, whereas manslaughter, it involves recklessly doing something. And Johnson said, at the moment of the shooting, it was a knowing offense. So, that the whole situation is tragic on both ends. This man's family will never see him again, all because of this police officer. Now her attorney feels that this charge was a mistake. He calls it a terrible tragedy, and he feels that a dispassionate jury will not find her guilty. But I don't know. I'm hoping her ass goes to jail. She shouldn't be allowed to just go home after murdering this man in his own apartment. That's just my feel of it. But for them to raise the charge from manslaughter to murder, they had to find something out. They ain't just do this out of the kindness of their heart or because of the some type of empathy or sympathy that they have towards the plight of black people and this man's family. Nah. Some had to come up, and they felt they needed to do this in order to protect themselves. And that's just what I think. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gather around for this week's episode of Colonizing Nonsense. My first colonizer nonsense moment once again takes me to my home state of Mississippi. Man, you motherfuckers had one goddamn job, and y'all couldn't get it done. It's crazy, flat out crazy. The whole nation looks at Mississippi as just an ignorant, racist, backwoods state, and you motherfuckers did nothing. I mean absolutely nothing to change the narrative on that. Once again, we have a racist, hatred-spewing idiot elected to a national office, and nothing was done. Fuck. There's no way Cindy Hyde-Smith deserved or should have been reelected to that Senate position. No way. That's just nonsense. Straight up nonsense. Fuck. My next colonizer nonsense moment takes me to the state of Florida. No surprise. Headline: racist post about Florida State coach Willie Taggart prompts outrage, a firing, and an investigation. So, if many of you didn't see it or heard about it, a fan of the Florida State Seminoles, who, by the way, your team is garbage. Just deal with it and move on. Anyways, he made a post that had a picture that showed Willie Taggart being lynched. Now, that's bad enough. He made it worse by doubling down on his sentiments, saying that he was willing to do anything to get rid of Willie Taggart. All this over some goddamn football. That's crazy. So, social media, which it always does, it finds the motherfuckers who guilty. They identified the creator of that since-deleted post, and they called for his firing on Monday morning. And guess what? It happened. The guy by the name of Tom Shand, he was an employee of Hilton Grand Vacations. Well, the irony of it all is your ass just went on a long, extended vacation. You so stupid. My next colonizer nonsense moment keeps me in the state of Florida. Goddamn Florida, y'all on some fuck shit. Headline:
Ex-police chief in Florida sentenced to 3 years for conspiracy to frame black people for crimes. God damn. Now, a former police chief in Florida has been sentenced to 3 years in prison because his police department framed black men for crimes that they did not commit. Now, I know y'all who listen to this thinking to yourself, I am absolutely goddamn shocked that the police was framing black people. I know. I get it. I was shocked as fuck myself. Now, the guy's name, Raymundo Atesiano, who was the former police chief of Biscayne Park, he previously pleaded guilty to conspiracy and told the judge on Tuesday that he felt pressured by community leaders to solve crimes in the village. Wow, pressure, huh? Imagine the pressure one feels of living every day knowing that you are a target of someone just because of the color of your goddamn skin. Now that's pressure. Now, this guy told the judge, and I quote, "When I took the job, I was not prepared. I made some very, very bad decisions." No shit, dummy. No shit. Now see, this is what bothers me by this. We have been saying this for years and years and years and years, and nobody believes us. Now, when stories like this come out and you have an admittance of guilt, crickets. Fucking crickets. And what's even more fucked up about this is that this guy is a person of color. He is not white. Yet, that was the ire of his anger. Black people were his target. But we stick up for them. But there's no reciprocity in cases like this. Fucking ridiculous. My final colonizer nonsense moment takes me to North Carolina and even more ignorant colonizer nonsense. Headline: Lynch them all. Shockingly racist rant from North Carolina high schoolers goes viral. A high school in North Carolina is in some seriously hot water after 2 of its students were featured in a viral video that uses a lot of profanities and racial slurs and even reference lynching black people. Now, the administrators of Guilford County Schools are doing their best to reassure parents of their commitment to diversity and inclusion. Although, I don't think that's enough. I mean, really. Now, these two kids, and I'm gonna use the word kids because they still in high school, but you know, they on the video, they talking tough talk and doing this and doing that, say do this and that. But we know what would happen if somebody rolled up on them. But the sad part about it is they were taught this. They ain't just wake up and say, I'm gonna start talking about lynching niggas and I hate black people, this, that, and the third. When you are raised in that type of environment, that's who you are. That's what you become. And that's crazy. Now, those 2 boys were supposed to receive a 10-day suspension, but it was later on revealed that they got 3 days of in-school suspension, and they got a police officer that maneuvers them around the campus. I tell you what, man. If they hate black kids so much, I wouldn't even be mad if some black kids gave their asses some real reasons to hate them for, because that shit is absolutely ridiculous. This week in Black History, I want to take this moment to celebrate the life and recognize the death of Sojourner Truth. Now, she was born in 1797, and she died November 26, 1883. She was an African American abolitionist. She was a women's rights activist. She was a big part of the progression of black people. Now, she was born into slavery, which is nothing new in New York, She escaped with her infant daughter to freedom in 1826, and after going to court to recover her son in 1828, she became the first black woman to win that type of case against a white man. Now, she gave herself the name Sojourner Truth in 1843 after she became convinced that God had called her to leave the city and go to the countryside. And that's when her abolitionist movement began. She also she was a big part of the Civil War. During the Civil War, she helped recruit black troops for the Union Army, and after the war, she tried unsuccessfully to secure land grants from the federal government for former slaves. And in 2014, she was included in the Smithsonian Magazine list of the 100 most significant Americans of all time. Shout out Miss Truth, and thank you for all that you've done. In other Black History news, it was on this day in 1955 when a simple act of defiance elevated a seamstress in Montgomery, Alabama into a pivotal symbol in America's civil rights movement. On December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks, the great one and only Rosa Parks, refused to move to the back of a city bus. Now, this action, little did she know that this action would help to end segregation laws in the South. I mean, it never really truly ended, but they just found ways around it. But nonetheless, she spurred the civil rights movement, along with the death of Emmett Till, and she was a very, very big part of what happened. It led to the Montgomery bus boycott. That boycott was a 381-day boycott of the bus system by blacks that was organized by none other than a 26-year-old Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. That boycott led to the Supreme Court ruling that desegregated public transportation in Montgomery. But it wasn't until 1964 Civil Rights Act that all public accommodations nationwide was desegregated. So, another sister who went above and beyond, who helped move forward the progression of black people, and for that, we thank you. We are forever indebted to you, Miss Rosa Parks. This week in sports starts us off in the NBA, and man, it is still full of smoke, except all the smoke is off the court. The Washington Wizards and their former all-star center / power bottom forward, I said power forward, Dwight Howard,
how you doing,
has found himself embroiled in some very, very interesting conversations. Man. So I'm pretty sure you all have seen the memes and heard the stories and seen the videos. Well, let me just put my take on it. So, first of all, let me just say, I don't give a damn if you gay, straight, bi, or trans. That's your business. It truly is. But when you put it out in the nation's consciousness, hey, it is what it is, and we gonna talk about it. Let's move on. So, Dwight Howard,
how you doing,
has found himself in a bit of a sex scandal when Saturday night, a guy by the name of Mason Elijah maybe started a Twitter thread saying that he and Dwight had dated back in the day. Now, he also wrote that after breaking up with Dwight, he was harassed and threatened by both Dwight Howard,
how you doing,
and a man named Calvin who works for him. Yikes. So, this guy also went on to say that Dwight was a frequent visitor to another transsexual sex party, and that's what made him mad, because he said, and I quote, that Dwight was around there raw dogging everybody. God damn. Man, that shit is crazy. But let me just say this. Again, I don't give a damn how you live your life. You do what you do. But if you around here harassing and threatening to harm transsexuals, you still fucked up. That's still wrong. Now, Dwight did address his situation, and I have a little audio footage of how it all went down.
Dwight, can you tell us how you felt when this whole story broke?
Yes, I can.
Hey,
Hey, Dwight. Hey, TK from Black Window Chaser. One quick question. Tell me, what was going on in your mind when you grabbed Isaiah Kanan's private parts on the sideline?
Gasp and swoon. I just caught the vapors.
You what? That's it. No more questions. Well, damn. I'll keep you guys posted as more info comes out. Now, elsewhere in the NBA, Kawhi Leonard, who plays for the Toronto Raptors, who is a malcontent in every sense of the word, it seems, in San Antonio, has decided to part ways with Jordan and venture off on his own with New Balance. New Balance? Damn. Now, he said he did this because this brand was his daddy's favorite brand of shoes. Now, listen, my nigga, I get it. You want to do your own thing. You want to make your own way. But goddamn, New Balance, I just don't see nobody rushing to get those new Mall Walker ones that you about to bring out. Over in the NFL, on Sunday, the San Francisco 49ers announced that the team would release linebacker Reuben Foster after he was arrested and charged with domestic violence while in Tampa Bay, Florida with the team. Now, for those of you who don't know who Reuben is, let me give you a quick rundown. Reuben was an All-American linebacker at the University of Alabama who was drafted in the first round by the San Francisco 49ers. Now, when I tell you this nigga got problems, I mean he has problems. He is like Lawrence Phillips 2.0. And if you don't know who Lawrence Phillips is, Google him. That nigga was a problem child too. Well, moving on. So, this was Reuben's third arrest of 2018. Not one, not two, but three. And they all have been domestic violence. Now, I am truly convinced that this nigga's the love child between Ike Turner and Joe Jackson, the way he keep putting his hands on people. He has a serious issue. But what's even more serious is the fact that after he was waived, the Washington Redskins picked him up off of waivers and gave him another job. And that is an indictment on the NFL. I mean, you can beat a motherfucker up, you can kill a motherfucker with your car, you can do insider trading, you can do drugs, you can do whatever you want and still keep a job, except Neil. What the fuck? Finally, in boxing news, and no, it is not about Floyd Mayweather. Thank goodness. Shit. On Saturday night, Tyson Fury is taking on Deontay Wilder for the heavyweight championship. Big fight. Highly anticipated, one that I've been waiting for a while. Well, they had a press conference and it kind of got out of hand. Both fighters, John, going back and forth with each other, had to be separated because of all the shit that was going on. But that wasn't the biggest part of that press conference. The biggest news happened after the press conference. Now, Deontay made a statement that said his people been fighting for 400 years, and a black reporter by the name of Radio Raheem, of all goddamn names, had the nerve to ask Deontay what did he mean by your people. And man, Deontay Wilder went off on his ass. Put him in his place quicker than my mama used to do me after she told me get out of her goddamn refrigerator. Quicker than my grandma used to put me in place when she told us to shut the goddamn door, you let flies in my house. I mean, he snapped, and he had to snap rightfully, because how the hell you as a black man gonna ask another black man what the fuck you mean by your people? Bruh, come on, man. You got to do better. And how the fuck your name Radio Raheem, of all names, by the way? Come on. This week's episode was brought to you by the fine folks over at E&J. When money's tight, they'll get you right, but you gonna hate that shit in the morning. I'll see you next week. we've reached the end of another episode of the Shade and Shit Talking Podcast. And as always, I thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I thank each and every one of you for the likes, the shares, the follows, the comments, all of that. Now, I would like to take this moment to tell you guys about a new venture that we at Black with No Chase are doing. We have started our own internet radio channel on live365.com. Make sure you go check it out. That is the Black with No Chaser radio on live365.com. It will also be a part of our website at www.blackwithnochaser.com. Now, this station, it will be talk, it will be sports, it will be self-help, mental help. It would be, talk about finances, technology, love, everything. We will also be doing a lot of music, supporting and breaking these independent, unsigned black artists in all genres of music. We got a full slate of things that's coming for 2018 that we are very excited about, that we are looking forward to, and I hope that you all are excited about it as well, looking forward to it as well. Again, Black with No Chaser radio on live365.com. Hit it, go to the search bar, type in Black with No Chaser, and boom, you right there. I also want to again say thank you for all the love and support. Remind you to check us out on Facebook, that's Black with No Chaser. Check us out on Twitter, Black with No Chaser. Instagram, as well as our new website that we are trying to put on the map and blow up for us, by us, www.blackwithnochaser.com. Well, as always, it's been a honor and a pleasure talking to you guys, and this is the one thing that I look forward to every single week, and this week is no different. So with that being said, thanks again. This your cousin TK, and I will see you guys next week.
Oh, thank you.